Riley gazed intently at his grandfather, eager to learn more about the enemy they had faced. I always found it strange that the Skrellians seemed friendly at first. What caused relations to sour between our peoples? John leaned back in his chair, eyes drifting as he recalled those pivotal events. It was nearly 50 cycles ago that their first envoy arrived, a looming figure called Akroth. He spoke of partnership and cooperation, trade between our worlds. We welcomed them in good faith, but soon small tensions arose. Skirmishes between patrols, missing supply ships. Anxiety grew in the higher ranks. Then, without warning, their armada materialized around our Halor. Riley shook his head. They must have been terrifying to behold, descending from the heavens with such speed and force. A shadow crossed John's face. Terrifying doesn't do it justice, lad. 8 feet of armored scale and muscle, moving like nothing I'd ever seen. And those jagged crests and maws. He shuddered. But the worst was Traxus. Even his own cowered at his approach. He slew countless soldiers with blade-like talons, taking grim trophies. The faded photo trembled in Commander Williams' wrinkled hands. John looked at his grandson Riley with weary eyes. "This was taken just before our last mission to liberate Earth," he said. "None of us knew if we'd ever see home again, but we had a job to do." Riley gently touched the polarized image. Young faces in Eclipse Corps uniforms stared back, full of fear and determination. "What was the invasion of Earth like, Grandpa?" John gazed out the window of the lunar base, his mind transporting back across the decades. "The night before the drop, our chaplain gave us all dog tags engraved with the phases of the moon. 'The stars go with you,' she said. I remember clutching my tag so tightly the indentations never left my palm." He turned to Riley. "When the dropships opened on the Martian plains, all hell broke loose. The Skrell knew we were coming, and the landing zone was lit up with plasma fire and shrapnel kicking up dirt all around us. Half our fleet never made it to the surface." John's voice took on a faint quiver. "Bodies were floating in zero-G everywhere. Limbs, torsos, some recruits not much older than you. And the screams, I'll hear them till my dying day." He stopped, swallowing hard. Riley remained silent, eyes wide. After a long moment, John continued. "We hit dirt running through that hell. Friends dropped left and right, but you couldn't stop, else the tunnelers would have swallowed you whole. When I finally dragged myself into a bomb shelter, I nearly froze in horror," John continued. "Bodies were piled so high the entrance looked like a twisted slaughterhouse. Limbs and torsos were mixed together in a grisly pile." He shut his eyes tightly. "I can still smell the ozone and effluvium if I think about it too much. Trying to find footing, I stepped on something soft. When I looked down, it was a face, eyes staring blankly at me." Riley gripped the edge of his seat, pale. John pressed on. "An orbital strike exploded nearby, spraying us with shrapnel. Private Smith was right next to me, screaming as her exosuit was shredded. I tried to help, but another blast threw me into the pile." His voice dropped to a tortured rasp. "I landed on something that gurgled and moved under me. It was still alive, most of its body blown apart. All I could do was end its suffering with my plasma rifle." Wiping a sheen of sweat from his brow, John shuddered. "I'll never erase the sounds and smells of that red dirt. Steeling myself, I got up and rejoined the fight. But hell itself had come to Earth that day. After clawing my way out of that mass grave, I was filled with rage and sorrow," he said. "All I could think about was avenging my fallen squad mates and liberating our homeworld. So I pushed forward with those still standing. We fought meter by bloody meter, clearing bunkers and tunnels with grenades in our combat suits when we ran low on ammo. I'll never forget coming upon what was left of Jenkins's unit after a plasma bombardment. Total anarchy. By nightfall, I guess, we'd managed to secure a patch of land around the bunker, But so many paid the price for each gain. Our numbers were a fraction of when we landed. Exhausted and numb to the pain, we dug in as best we could amid the human and Skrell corpses. But there was little rest as the tunnels beneath erupted with the enemy all through the night. After clawing my way out of that mass grave, I was filled with equal parts rage and sorrow, he began. All I could think about was avenging our fallen siblings and liberating our homeworld, so I pushed forward with those few who yet remained standing. We fought meter by bloody meter, clearing bunkers and tunnels with plasma charges and our combat exosuits as our munitions dwindled. I'll never forget coming upon what little was left of Jenkins' fire team after a Skrellian bombardment. Total evisceration. By dusk, we had managed to secure a small region surrounding an outcropping of bunkium alloy. But so many paid the ultimate sacrifice for every parsec gained. Our numbers had been reduced to a sliver of what first touched down in the landing phase. Exhausted yet numbed beyond the pain by cycles of perpetual combat, we dug in amid the piles of human and xeno remains as best our failing frames allowed. But there could be no reprieve, as throughout the night shifts the tunnels all around continued spewing forth fresh waves of enemies. At first light the ground shuddered violently. Jacobs nudged me awake. "You feel that, Captain? Something's coming." I peered through the bunker dust at 3 hulking silhouettes emerging in the distance. Scrake's hell, more tunnelers. The towering war machine smashed aside our barricades like flimsy-plast. Through the viewport we watched in dread as their plasma cannons charged with a high-pitched whine. "We're out of ammo, out of med packs," said Jacobs grimly. Her eyes met mine. "It's been an honor, sir." I clasped her shoulder. "The honor's been mine. Let's give them one more fight to remember us by." Our cries seemed lost to the hell outside. The tunnelers advanced, spewing boiling waves of heat. My squad embraced, muttering final prayers. Then a brilliant light split the clouds. "Reinforcements!" I shouted. A hail of precise lasers raked the tunnelers' armor like vibroblades. Screeching, they flailed and staggered under the barrage. One by one, the colossi crumpled in fiery heaps. A ragged cheer went up as the ashes settled. Jacobs pumped her fist. "We showed those skaglickers. No one melts my captain on my watch." John nodded proudly at the recollection. "Aye, your Grand showed those tunnelers what Earthfolk are made of that day." Riley leaned forward eagerly. "So what happened after you drove them off? Did you go on the counterattack?" A shadow passed over John's face. "Not right away, lad. Most of us could barely stand, let alone fight. But I'll never forget the rallying cry that went up." His voice took on a more commanding tone as memory overtook him. "The enemy may pound us into the dirt, but they'll never break our spirit. Today we showed what true grit and galactic resolve can do against impossible odds. Now it's their turn to taste cold steel." So you have it, the battle for Earth, straight from the mouth of a war hero. As Riley's grandfather John recounted his experiences from the invasion, I felt as though I was right there with him in the fray. When he described the nightmarish scene of that field hospital, full of mangled corpses piled to the ceiling, I nearly recoiled in horror. Yet at the same time, I was in awe of how John steeled himself to claw his way out of that carnage. Just imagining that tangled mass of limbs and death turned my stomach. But fueled by rage and loyalty, John pushed on to rejoin the fight. What raw courage in the face of such devastation! As he recalled the chaos of each hard-won meter, every bunker cleared, I swelled with admiration for John and his surviving squad mates. Outgunned, outpaced, they persevered through exhaustion beyond limits. The image of them huddled in makeshift bunkers, digging in amidst heaped corpses, is seared into my mind. And when John described the arrival of reinforcements, angels raining down lasers from above, I practically cheered aloud. I tell you, I was on the edge of my seat as he recalled that climactic battle with the tunnelers. What a triumphant underdog moment. John's stories painstakingly evoke the horrors of war, but they also remind us that the human spirit cannot be defeated. I'm honored he shared these gripping memories. We must never forget the sacrifices of our liberators, nor their sheer grit in the face of impossible odds.